Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you out to the study session for the Mesa City Council for the morning of Thursday, October 24th. We'd like to excuse Councilmember Duff, who is out of town. Mr. Vice Mayor, I believe we have you online, do we not?
Yeah.
Great. All right, and the rest of our council is present here in the lower council chambers. Item 1A on our agenda is a presentation and update on the Mesa Climate Action Plan and the Trees Are Cool initiative. Great to be with you this morning. Thanks for being here.
Excellent. Good morning, Mayor, Council. Scott Boucher. I'm the Energy and Sustainability Director here at the city, and I'm joined by Laura Heineman, who's our Deputy Director. And I'm excited to introduce Stephen Addison, who is our Urban Forest Program Manager. And we're gonna be talking about trees today. So it's about 2-3 weeks ago, we had a conversation around trees in Broadway Road. And I promised you that we'd be back today and have this conversation a little bit more. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Stephen. Let's see.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Stephen. I'm your Urban Forest Program Manager, and today I'll provide an update on the development of the Urban Forest Program. I'll discuss what we're doing to promote Trees Are Cool, Million Tree Initiative, and what we are doing daily to ensure we have a healthy, thriving urban forest. Internally, we've been collaborating with various city departments to strengthen our urban forestry efforts. These collaborations have helped me to begin to develop more comprehensive and effective planting strategies. Externally, I've been engaging with residents, businesses, and other stakeholders to identify my tree allies and build strong partnerships and support from within the community. To achieve our citywide 15% canopy cover goal, we've been leveraging existing resources, city knowledge, and data. The Trees Are Cool initiative is a key component of this effort as it directly contributes to increasing our tree canopy. Next slide, Laura. First, there are many people, both within the city of Mesa and externally, who deeply care about this initiative and working to help us plant more trees. This list is not exhaustive. I know I've missed other organizations that have supported me in the first 6 months and the city ongoing. I want to express my gratitude to everyone involved, including the public who asked the city for more trees during the public engagement for the Mesa Climate Action Plan. Additional partners on this list that did not include are tree contractors, West Coast Arborists, and Mariposa, as well as other municipalities that have shared their information and knowledge at the Phoenix Urban Forestry Roundtable, a monthly gathering. Okay, so I've been here for about 6 months. In the first 3 months, we conducted internally a SVOC analysis, a strengths, vulnerability, opportunities, and constraints assessment. The results have informed our city's strategic planning for urban forestry. Additionally, the assessment introduced me to the current urban forestry conditions here in the city of Mesa. So after collecting department feedback, we organized and categorized the comments into several bullet points. This slide shows some of those highlights, and I'd like to draw attention to 1 point per category. So in our strengths category, we identified a collaborative and well-supported tree planting initiative as a city strength. In vulnerabilities, we are concerned about the public's perception of trees, which is reinforced by inconsistent practices such as messy trees or poor pruning, leading to blowovers. Opportunity, we identified the ability to exceed canopy goals as a significant opportunity. If a parcel can exceed more than 15% tree canopy, there's the potential to knock it out of the park and plant more. And lastly, in constraints, we are worried about environmental factors such as the heat, people working in summer heat, airification, and water scarcity all pose challenges to future tree planting and care. So we took that SVOC assessment and we used those results to inform initial city strategic planning. So this slide shows 4 KPIs that we will use to help us achieve 15% canopy. So staff highlighted the politically championed, collaborative, and well-supported tree planting initiative. To demonstrate this support, our first KPI uses the already collected funding per capita data we submit to be considered a Tree City USA. This year, we're at approximately $6.80 per capita. Our second KPI demonstrates our commitment to developing a diverse workforce. Across the Phoenix Valley, municipalities and nonprofits received funding from the USDA and IRA to grow the number of arborists over the next several years. So we expect to see that number rise within our city limits. The next KPI on the list is our efforts to focus programming in areas of most needs, so in low canopy neighborhoods. We continue to host tree distribution events, and additional tree-focused programming has just begun. And the last KPI is trees planted. We are taking an urban forestry approach to ensure Mesa is following industry standards and being innovative to properly plant and care for new trees and continue protecting our mature trees. Okay, so I'm going to shift now to what's been going on programming-wise. This slide is a highlight of our first 2 tree distribution programs for the fall. We're in the middle of the second one. This coming Saturday is our second distribution event, so it's not completely up to date. I just want to highlight some of the notes that we learned from these 2. Natives were unpopular among participants at a 2-to-1 ratio during our Mesa Electric Shade Tree Program distribution event. And the parking lot where we distributed the trees the following Saturday morning was over 105 degrees by 9 a.m., so it was a tough environment. The second notes, we are in the middle of the Reed Park Mesa Neighborhood Shade Tree Program. We had a very successful outreach effort led by a community member, so a neighborhood rep. He helped us distribute over 400, himself and other neighbors helped us distribute over 400 door hangers, which led to, as you can see, the total registered were 160, and the total in attendance were 77. Those numbers were almost double from the Mesa Electric Shade Tree Program. Additionally, there were older adults in the neighborhood who can care for trees, but really have a hard time planting trees, and they're looking for planting tree support. Next slide, please. The first Friday of every month, we're hosting office hours to support the Trees Are Cool initiative. It's called Get Answers, Get Planting. The locations were strategically chosen to target areas that received trees last year at distribution events and areas of future programming. So in areas where we hosted last year's distribution events, I invite back those residents that received trees to provide personal support on young tree care and maintenance. In the other areas, I prioritize raising awareness with park goers and inviting them to upcoming distribution events. At all events, we engage with the public through a localized mapping exercise, asking them where they would like to see more trees in that neighborhood, and what types of trees and what they want their trees to do. We are partnered or collaborating with Arizona Sustainability Alliance and American Forests. Both of them received federal funding to stand up a 3-year tree steward program that supports the city of Mesa. The first cohort started on October 12th. We had approximately 15 individuals in attendance learning the basics of urban forestry and tree care. At the end of each cohort, they will plant 100 trees within the city of Mesa and receive a certificate from the state's Department of Forestry and Fire Management. So over 3 years, we expect about 500 trees to be contributed from this program. We recently had a community business partner and American Forests reach out and tapped Arizona Sustainability Alliance to lead a tree planting event at Heritage Park. Because of this opportunity and our Parks Department's willingness to act quickly, we were able to install irrigation and plant 60 new desert native or desert adapted trees. Before the planting event, Heritage Park had 16 trees and a 4% canopy cover. Okay, so the second half of this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about data. I'm just going to use one case study to help inform future tree planting opportunities. Before we dive into that one case study, I wanted to highlight some cross-departmental planning efforts that we have underway. We're collaborating with planning to collect forecasted canopy cover data in proposed developments. We'll start this process after the next DRB, or Design Review Board, meeting on November 12th. We'll continue collecting this information for several months. This will provide us a baseline of what developers are proposing for canopy cover. Working with Parks Department, we're using an existing park-by-park study to direct future tree planting efforts for cool routes and shade for people walking. All right, so here is the case study. So what I did here on this map, on the left, it is the Reed Park neighborhood. It's a registered neighborhood with the city of Mesa. Inside that map, there are 8 census blocks. This is the area from Main Street to Southern Ave and South Stapley to South Gilbert. In those 8 census blocks, canopy cover ranges from 6 to 12%. Those green dots, those are our existing public trees that we manage. On the right is vacant sites within the census tract. We had a certified arborist drive this neighborhood and identified 1,878 vacant sites at single-family homes to plant trees. So inside the neighborhood, there's not public space to plant trees, but there are these opportunities, which reinforces the tree distribution event. According to American Forest, 1,539 medium-sized trees would help us achieve 15% canopy. Additionally, in this map, we'll zoom in, there's a school bottom right, and top left is Reed Park. So let's zoom into Reed Park and see what we can do. This map is a rendering, it's a proof of concept created by a landscape architecture firm, so it's unfunded, and it's clearly to demonstrate what a 15% canopy cover can look like. So when you're looking at the rendering, the yellow dots are existing trees, and the green dots are proposed trees. Currently, we have about a 6% shade canopy cover with the yellow dots. We can add 120 trees to achieve 15% canopy cover. That cost estimate is around $90,000 for 15-gallon trees.
Yeah, excuse me.
Can I ask you a question?
That's
Can you
it.
go back a slide and, yes, so the one on the right those are vacant sites, so that's all private property opportunities,
Private property, front yards only.
front yards, okay. Okay, thank you.
And just a quick assessment drive-by, no 811, no checking utilities underneath, but from the road, from a level 1 assessment, they would be a suitable site for planting trees.
But the point is, it's mostly private.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of public opportunities to add tree canopy in this block area. Okay.
Are we done?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we can get
Oh.
this.
The next
Great.
slide was the last thing.
That was it.
All right. Yes, please do.
You knew I was going to ask questions. I love this. Okay, let me see if I can remember everything I wanted to ask. So on like the study of Reed Park, which is really close to my house, this whole area that's my target in Mesa High right there. So I know this area well. So we figure, okay, $90,000. So what are we thinking? Like we would try to get a sponsor like Amazon did or something like that to help do that? I mean, is that kind of the goal there?
I think, good question. I don't know, Councilmember Spilsbury. We have upcoming planting opportunities with partners. The Tree Steward Program is one that we can kind of steer them towards planting in certain areas. The residents, they ultimately do decide, but we will offer 3 different sites.
Okay, and that was my next question, actually. I'm really excited about that Tree Steward program. I think that's amazing. And how long do each of those cohorts last for?
There are 2 Saturday sessions, 4 hours each, and then they have time to plan and coordinate a planting event. There's also open office hours that AZSA and American Forest hosts, as well as they're invited to the first Friday open office hours that we host.
And that's when they would plant the 100 trees as part of their cohort?
From this first cohort, we're looking to plant in January or February.
Okay,
And there will be a second cohort starting in January, February, looking to plant before the summer, or
yeah.
the hot temperatures.
Before it's hot, yeah. Okay, that's really exciting to me. Those people all
Yeah.
look really excited to be a part of this, so. And then my other question, so like on slide 6, there was obviously a lot more people registered than actually attended. So those 80, 90 people were interested but didn't make it to the workshop. So do they have an opportunity to get one of our trees, or they have to attend the workshop to get the tree? But they were obviously interested enough to, maybe they just ended up not being able to come. So what are we doing for those people?
Sure, the current program is organized that we do require them to attend the workshop to receive
To receive the
2
tree.
trees.
Okay.
That ensures that they receive the education on how to plant the tree, care for the tree, it's fearful. It reduces the trees' chances of survival if they don't attend the workshops.
Absolutely. So if someone called and said like, hey, I didn't make it, but I still want those 2 trees, like, is there an opportunity for them to learn the information or to watch a slideshow or something, or?
We are working on that. It has
Okay.
been case by case thus far.
Okay.
It's been at least for the folks who've reached out of the total registered, we have been able to accommodate those. It's only been about 2 or 3 people.
Okay,
But no, you're absolutely right. We're missing
a lot.
a lot of folks who are interested. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then I think my last question is just, I know that we were really pushing like the citywide database for people to go on and to be able to track when they plant trees. I know there's a man in my district that's very pro planting trees and having more green. He hates the fake grass, all of the stuff. So, but he's also, I see him on Facebook always encouraging people to go on and track on a database. And I don't even think it's our database. So are we still doing that? We're still pushing that? We're trying to get people to go on and track when they plant a tree?
Yes. There are 2 events not listed on here. We did promotion events at nurseries, trying to capture people who were buying trees as they were leaving, just to remind them to please register.
Oh, great.
We're informing the nursery staff and just being present, showing up where people are currently buying trees to inform them.
That's awesome. Yeah, because trying to get the word out to do that is difficult. I mean, so it sounds like really the emphasis that the city's trying to do though is just to fill in green spaces, like where we, especially the ones that have really low tree canopies. That's kind of the push more than getting residents to plant in their front yards, or is it both?
It'll be a long-term strategic approach with both, yes.
Okay. All right, I'll finish with that. Thank you so much for all your work on this.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? After you.
I love the SWOT analysis. That's really nice. I've seen a SWOT, but I haven't seen a SWOT, so that's, I like it. And is the objective 1.4, is that in our plan? Is that where that came from? Is that in the
So
climate action plan?
That's an extension of the climate action plan. It's actually part of our department annual plan, what
Oh,
we're
okay.
working on this year and what we hope to achieve. But there is a very strong connection to the climate action plan, yes.
Okay, so this is for this year, and these KPIs are for this year?
Yes.
Okay.
The intention is to continue forward
Yeah.
using these.
And then, so the data collecting that we're doing, we're going to collect forested canopy data and proposed developments, and then what are we going to do with that data?
Councilmember Goforth, we will use that data to look at incentivizing, I'd say, proposed development, seeing how we can increase canopy in new development.
Okay.
And then it also lets us, it provides that baseline so I can look and see where future development, we may be able to have 15% canopy, other areas where we can add canopy around those proposed developments in case they are lower. It's just gonna help, I think, allow us to approach the proposed developers and see how we can.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea, but I just wanted to know from your perspective, what is happening in the second step?
Yes, I think it is very important to understand, and that's why we're working closely with the planning staff. They're actually asking developers on a voluntary basis to provide that canopy cover with their new development proposals. We're not asking for any changes. We're not saying, hey, try to reach this goal. We're just trying to gather what they're doing today so we can understand what the design standards are enabling. And then if we need to do something different, we can. But I think it's important to understand where we are now. And Stephen, with Reed Park, he did also look at other developments within that neighborhood, so a multifamily, a commercial, and he had the landscape, we'll see if the slides are here. He had this was not working. Here's an example of a commercial shopping center, just same group, and their landscape architecture from the city does work with, said, hey, go out there, take a look at the trees are there, and then take a look at how we can add trees, and what can we do with the existing development standards to reach that 15%? So those are the types of study that are kind of underway right now.
So it's
To answer your
not just
question.
developments going forward, it's not new developments, or just new developments, it's assessing existing developments as well? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it'll be a way for us to help existing business owners and then look at how we can incentivize proposed development. But yeah, we're in the initial
Yeah.
baseline phase right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's important because there's only a few ways that we have any amount of control in adding tree coverage, right? I mean, we can't obviously force private property owners, but in the development process, we can encourage a little bit more. We can obviously do the city property and rights of way, but the Reed Park, the slide with Reed Park, so what we've said is we're going to assess cool routes to parks. And so that was part of this is looking at this park and how people get there and how well it's covered, how much shade on their route to the park.
And that's, again, another partnership we'll have with the Parks Department, looking strategically at how we can shade those pathways to parks and within the park, the areas that people are.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great too.
This planting plan was designed with walk-in in mind. It really lines up with the parks, the study that they did for this park, and you can see the trees are lined on all the walkways. And when I was out there asking the residents who lived around the area in those apartments, they were walking their kids to school, they had strollers, all of them asked for shade to increase walkability.
From where they live. We're not
From where
talking
they
about
live.
just within the park. We're talking about a route from where you live to get to the park. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's great. I think that was all I had. I appreciate all the information. It's a great program. I think that's it. Thank you.
You bet. Mr. Freeman?
Stefan, I got to meet you on your tree day, the 105-degree balmy day at 640 North Mesa Drive. You were just closing up, and you'd gotten rid of all your trees there. And I showed up like a blister after the work's done. So, but I appreciate reaching out during that time. One of the things, just listening to the conversation, was about the collaboration between our planning department and our trees initiative is cool. Do we need to strengthen the ordinance or anything to, when developments come in, I'm thinking, well, the development should, instead of voluntarily do the 15% or whatever, what do we do? Do we strengthen the ordinance, Mary, to where, I'll put you on the spot, to require developers to put in so much treescape? Because then you have SKIP as well that kind of deviates from that too.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Freeman. What we have now is a current baseline for landscaping. Working with Laura and the energy and sustainability team, what we're looking at is that baseline landscaping. We have to kind of, I think, understand where we sit as that baseline to see what kind of additional requirements we may want to put on. Again, right now it's a voluntary kind of approach where we're trying to work with our development community to understand what it is that they're achieving on their sites. Something like a project that exists, if they come in and they don't want to put in that additional landscaping, they do have that option to deviate from that standard through a SKIP type of a process. So
Right.
I think at this point, it's really about encouraging the development community. We haven't really set down yet if we want to make any adjustments, though, to the zoning ordinance as it relates to landscaping.
Well, I'm just thinking out loud that we're trying to establish collaboration between the two departments, that maybe we need to consider that for future and require a certain percentage of landscape and trees for the development.
And so, Councilmember Freeman, we are working really close with Laura and her team on this so that we can identify, which is why we're asking for the canopy, because it's not necessarily just the number of trees, it's the mature growth and the canopy that we get out of those trees, which is different than what our current ordinance is requiring, which is why we need to kind of get that baseline so we can see if those adjustments are needed and how.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. And I think also the collaboration with our groups, the Sustainability Alliance and the American Forest products is extremely important for us to move forward. And then getting our trees planted in our community. I know that we were all out to Heritage Park and watching all the volunteers plant out there. It was a nice warm day as well. So I think he planted 60 or 80 trees that day.
60, and parks continued to, they added additional trees above the parking lot. I went out yesterday, there's about 20 to 25 additional trees. So ultimately, I'm gonna say there's approximately 80 trees new out there.
Are they on the database?
They're getting there.
Well, with that, I'm sure you find support for this program from council, so thank you.
I was just going to add, Mark, I think you make a good point, and I think it's a good place to start to take assessment. But really, that's a council initiative, right?
Yes.
If we want it to be required by the development community, that needs to come from us. So I think that's something we need to weigh in on and discuss.
And it
Is
does,
that
We've
what
all-
they're hearing?
I don't know.
but it does sound like the discrepancy between numbers of trees versus canopy, like, it sounds like there's some information
For sure,
that
that
still
needs to
needs
be
to
gathered.
come. And then at that point, we say, yes, let's, as a council,
Yeah.
we've decided we want to make that a mandate, or we don't, right? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
so.
When will that come back? When will that be done?
I think it's going to take a while to collect the data and then do kind of the analysis, so. That's a
I'm just going to
non-answer, I
add here,
understand.
I mean, I don't know what slide it is here, 11. You've already done the data. You've got 1,878 vacant properties without trees. And this would be a good template or snapshot to go, how do we get 15% more coverage in these vacant lots and work with homeowners in this area they already identified and see what we can do and provide a template how we can move forward throughout the city. I mean,
Yeah.
you've
And I-
already done it.
Yeah, and that's what, with Stephen, I think that's the great part about what he's been doing, is he's been focused on a neighborhood like this, trying to get champions within the neighborhood to help out, so that it's not just the city coming in one time and doing an event and then leaving. Really trying to build some momentum within the neighborhoods, because that's where the opportunities are gonna be, especially when we talk about walking along Broadway Road. I'll go back, to 3 weeks ago when we discussed that you've got property lines right up to the sidewalk, that there really isn't a lot of places for the city to plant trees, because we just simply don't have property. But there's a lot of opportunity with business owners and with homeowners in those neighborhoods to do it. But I think that's where Stephen's really trying to build a program that has support from the community. And, but that's gonna take time.
I think that's a great idea, Mark.
I just want to underline a lot of the good things that have been said here. And first of all, welcome, Stephen. I think we've been anxiously awaiting your arrival, and this is a community priority, a council priority, and it's not going to go anywhere until you arrived and could provide some dedicated leadership in spite of the enthusiasm of the folks on either side of you and council. So we are anxious to follow your leadership on this. The last couple of years in particular have been striking in terms of the increase in heat that we've seen in our community. I mean, we've blown away records, and so I think there's a real appetite for, what can we do as a community to try to change our environment to respond to the very dangerous extreme heat that we've seen. So this strikes me as, along with something like education in our community, something that we can clearly identify that we want to get better at. And so I think that's great, but we're going to need to change the culture of our community a little bit. When an Apple or a Google or a Meta moves to Mesa now, and we're talking to them about opportunities to be impactful, we can say, would you please like to be a part of the Mesa College Promise Program, or would you really like to be, we want to be a tree city. We want planting trees to be part of our culture. Is that something that you can help us with? And so I think it's going to require a cultural change in this organization, Mesa City Government, and we are going to need to perhaps work on, city planning requirements and increase the requirements for trees. But then for just this one proposal around Reed Park, it's about a $90,000 a check that needs to be written to accomplish this goal. So I think the resources of our city can respond to this, the municipal resources, but more importantly, maybe the community. We can find $90,000 to do this. It won't come out of the city's coffers, which is even better, right? And so, but it's going to require a cultural change, and it's going to need to become a community goal and an aspiration for the entire city. But I'm confident, much like the College Promise program when we launched that a few years ago, we thought, look at how much money this is going to cost. I don't think we can do this. And then what we realized is raising money was the easy part. It's changing the culture, and it's just putting out the opportunity for people to engage in it. So I'm very optimistic that we can do this. This Million Tree Challenge sounds like a pie in the sky, overly ambitious, aspirational goal, but it's not really if you break it down into something that's going to be done over the course of decades, and it's going to be done one tree at a time. It's a very realistic goal. And then I think that the final thing, I heard you talk about blowovers. And I think we need to be a little more sophisticated as a tree community. And I mean, every year when we have a microburst or something, and we just see mass carnage on the streets in terms of our tree population took a real hit, in storms, we need to get better at realizing that there's more to being a tree city than planting trees. Mm-hmm. When you have the adolescent trees that need a trim, you need to respond to that, or the next, when the storm comes, they're not going to be here. So I'm looking forward to us being, embracing the whole, having a mature canopy as well, not just planting trees. Mm-hmm. But again, this is very exciting, and we're excited that you're here. I promise you that this is an effort that we can be successful at, and I look forward to our city over the next years and decades really embracing the need that we have to increase our tree canopy coverage.
We'll wheel you out in your wheelchair for the millionth tree.
Hey, that's the best thing I've heard in a long time.
I'll commit to that.
Yeah,
I don't know
okay.
where I'll be, but.
Thank you. Thank you. That might be next year that I'll be in the wheelchair. All right, Council, anything else you'd like to add to this? But hopefully you feel loved and appreciated and welcomed, and you know that this is something that we want to rally around and put you on our shoulders and make this happen. Great. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, item 1B, is a presentation and direction on placemaking initiatives.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Today, Rachel and I have a presentation we wanted to go through about placemaking. What is placemaking? What makes a great place? So Rachel's going to start by kind of going through some of the overview of it, and then we'll get into some of the things that we in the city are doing specifically. So I'll leave that to Rachel.
All right. Good morning, Mayor, Council. So we wanted to have this discussion. As you know, placemaking was one of the strategic priorities that was identified by Council at the beginning of this last year. And up on the screen, we have the statement that was created by Council regarding placemaking. And I won't read the entire thing, but really it was a focus to create vibrant, attractive, and functional public spaces that foster a sense of community and connectedness. And it's looking at opportunities that we can do through design and building our physical environment to look at ways to connect people to various places and really create that sense of place. When we talk about placemaking, there's no one clear definition for placemaking. And on the screen, I have a couple of examples from various places like the Congress of New Urbanism and Projects for Public Spaces. But this really talks about it. It's not specifically about design, but it's really about the process of creating quality places. And that's, like I said, not just through design, but it's about connecting people to places through activities, through a sense of interaction and connected to a place, a way to give it some sort of meaning. Up on here, you can see that it's really the use of public spaces to strengthen that connection between people and places itself, and really create a place where people want to live, work, play, and learn. So when we talk about where placemaking occurs, there's kind of various elements of the city where you see this happening, and I'm going to kind of walk through those. And we have some examples of where we've done this in the city of Mesa, kind of on the right-hand side. So the first one of those is our paths. So that's along our streets, trails, sidewalks, canals. So it's the places along which people move. And you can see that we've done this along the Rio Salado Connector Trail. Also, you can see this happening through the Mesa Arts Center. So it's really giving that kind of identity and creating that place where people are really interacting with a space. This also happens along edges within the city. So those are, walls, buildings, streets, some sort of feature that creates a physical boundary. So examples of those on the right, we have some of our transit stations where you can really see that it creates a distinct edge there. And also in the Falcon District along kind of the street walls there, where we've done a lot of placemaking with some kind of murals and imagery. This happens in larger areas of the city, which are our districts, and we have a few of those that are pretty distinguishable, so like the Fiesta District, and we also have the Asian District as well, where you can see where it really has a unique identity, and there are various elements that kind of work together to create that sense of place. Placemaking also occurs at activity nodes, so these are focal points that really act as gathering spaces. So these can be private development, such as your large activity centers, such as a Riverview, a Fiesta, a Superstition Springs kind of area. But it also can be, our parks or some various other amenity where people gather. And then lastly, our landmarks. So these are unique points of references that really can be identified from a distance where you have, it kind of triggers a recognition of a place. So we have a lot of gateway signage and other sort of art features that really act as a landmark and a focal point.
So when we start looking at what makes a great place, making a great place is more than site design. It's really about creating a place that can be activated, where people can gather. That interaction between people and those activities that those people are undertaking is what makes them feel like I am in a great place. It creates those experiences, those things that we remember when we go home, those activities. And it's also a mixture of both public and private uses. So it can be food and retail, it can be a park, it can be art, there's health recreation associated with it, trail systems. So all of these things create that experience, because what we want is for people to interact, and that interaction is so important in creating great places. Sorry, I didn't flip my mind. So we also need to make sure that those gathering spaces are safe and secure. So we're always using the SEPTED type principles to make sure that our parks and our plazas are safe, secure, lighted. There aren't hiding places, so people feel like that's a place I want to go and I want to interact. There's connectedness and sharing spaces, so different users, whether it's retail in a park or a park and a trail, that they're sharing those spaces so, again, those people can go from place to place. And then those well-designed places, again, not just that site, but that public-private partnership is so important so that we are creating great places. I want to reiterate that a site may not be a great place. So if we're building a Starbucks, we can have a great design on that site. We can have a place for people to sit and have a coffee. But that may not be placemaking the same way that a commercial plaza with a park adjacent to it becomes a place where people are spending a lot of time. They're doing more than one activity, and they're taking that place in to create those experiences. So in Mesa today, we are doing a lot of placemaking. And so when we look at some of the parks and the plazas that Rachel had mentioned in her presentation, things like City Hall and how that's going to help to enhance a great place, which we have today, which is called downtown. That type of public investment and those public assets on our right-of-ways, in our trails, at our transit stops, they all help to kind of create that connectivity, that experience, that that time that people are spending in these great places. We also look at branding and programming of spaces. So we use a lot of our spaces for activities such as Merry Main Street or Celebrate Mesa. And these are activities that on a weekend, and council is often talking about this weekend, I went to. Those events are important to our residents because, again, they create that experience. And they're, making sure that those activities are available in those great places is what the city is continually doing as we create specialized features like the plaza downtown where there are activities at different times of the year. Gateway signage is so important. When you go down to the Elliott Tech Corridor, you go to the Falcon District, you're there because of the gateway signage. All of those things kind of give that sense of the city being connected. And then finally, the policy development, a lot of the initiatives that the city council takes, and then some of those public-private cooperation, those partnerships are important. So we've got our high-quality design guidelines because we need great site design to be able to lead to great places. In the general plan, we started to look at place types that bring in design characteristics when an applicant is coming in to do private development, and then our public investment helps to solidify that with what the private entities are doing in the city, looking at that high quality design and creating things that are unique in the city. So one great example of this is Rio Reimagined, and that is a very long linear project that is going to have several great places along it that then all kind of create this almost pearl necklace all the way through Maricopa County. So it's a series of great places that are all connected. So those public-private partnerships are really important as we're looking at placemaking. And so we wanted to just summarize some of the initiatives that we as a city are taking, talk about great placemaking. Again, as Rachel said, there's no one definition. It's a lot of things that come together to create a great place. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Thank you. Well, let me just preface this by saying we had a council planning session a couple months ago, and this was one of the concepts that really came out of that we aspire to get better at placemaking, or to kind of, again, mature as a community and focus on improving the quality of the things that are existing in our city, or figuring out how to do more than just create a bunch of new streets and buildings, but to make them something that is enjoyable and brings character to our city. So thank you to Mr. Brady and to Rachel and Mary. Thank you for doing a deep dive on this, and hopefully we can glean from this an action plan for how we can get better at creating. I mean, there's some amazing photos there of real successes that we've had in the last few years, and I think we're all very proud of those. But we can't do too many of those, and this is really the definition of quality of life in our community. So I appreciate staff bringing this back, and I'm looking forward to seeing what council can do with this. Julie.
Do you mean our strategic planning session in February?
Yeah, just a few months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, it was a little longer than a couple months ago. No, this was fun to look and see all these pictures and remember when we've been at these different locations for really great events and bringing community together. I guess my question is maybe like a chicken and egg type question. Are you looking out and starting a placemaking, or are you making an existing place have more of a placemaking feel? What's the strategy there of how we create this? I, of course, noticed none of these pictures are in District 2, right? So that, I just don't have placemaking in my district, and that's hard, right? So in coordination with all of our redevelopment efforts, is that come into play here? We're looking at redevelopment, where could be a place where we could have placemaking, or really does it come after something's already created? Does that make sense?
No, it really does. I appreciate that, Councilmember Spilsbury. I think if you look at these, many of these projects, while we have planning here, and planning is certainly part of it, a lot of times it comes through a decision to do a plaza or a park, or to look at a corridor. So it happens in a lot of different places. And I would say this is, while building great places is really important, you really need to stimulate it with great programming and activities, right? Because you can have a great place, but something has to be happening there. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because, in some cases it may, but a lot of the activities we think about that are creating these placemaking, or that are taking advantage of the space or the facilities or the improvements, is because we're bringing programs in and it gets people into those spaces. So it takes a combination. So a lot of this happens in the parks, right? And you can see that throughout here. And we've done a lot of intention. It has to be, I think, Rachel mentioned, or in the definition, there's just like an intentionality here. We really have to have an intentionality. I don't think you can just do it and hope people show up. I think you have to build a space and you have to stimulate it with activities. That's at least the experiences we've
Which
had.
is challenging with as big of a
It's
city
hard to
that we
find,
have.
but you know, I think we've tried to be very creative, and I'll go back to one that didn't make this list, but one of the first ones that I remember working on when I came, working with Mesa, is we were doing Mesa Drive. And it was a road project, right? It would need to be widened, and needed to put up some walls for the neighborhoods. But along the way, we found opportunities. We needed to get additional right-of-way. We ended up buying an old Texaco station and turning it into a park that has the skateboarding park now, right? And then earlier, towards the 60s, we bought out another lot. It's a great park. And so it doesn't have to be big scale, but sometimes along the way in these public projects, we're trying to find these kinds of opportunities. So it's hard to, that's what we struggle with this, is like, how do you like really put a strong definition on it? But we recognize the importance of public gathering spaces, creating places where people can come out of their homes and get together. So I think hopefully as the bond program projects that are up for consideration, I think there's a lot of opportunities within those proposed programs to continue this discussion, whether it's in the parks part or in other areas, is to keep looking for those opportunities. So I think it's all those, right? It's a redevelopment project, it's a new project. I mean, you know, Eastmark has great placemaking spots, but it's highly and publicly incentivized in order to make that happen, right? I mean, that didn't just happen without public, huge incentives, and those residents are paying for those through their CFD fees, right? And so it's just kind of like, we've got to, you know, there's not like a template, I guess, is what I'm also trying to say.
So the answer to my question would be yes. All of the above.
All the above, that's probably correct.
You're doing
yes.
it anywhere
That's the
and
shorter
anything
answer.
you can find. I mean, yeah, I go out to District 6, I have to drive really far to get there, but.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, but I mean, over by Scott's neighborhood, when we were
Yeah.
out there for the library groundbreaking, I mean, that's just
Can-
lovely.
You saw, yeah.
The
that's-
lake, the
that side-
sidewalks, the farmer's
right.
market. I mean, it's like, I have nothing like that in my district, and I don't have the land to do it in my
Right.
district.
But that's
so-
why I think we need to look at the parks, look
Yeah.
at the public spaces we have. You know, Monterey Park is another one. Monterey Park was just a simple, you know, ball fields and open fields, but putting that library there, putting some of their amenities, started creating
The
this
story path,
placemaking,
walking
the story
around, all
pathway.
this.
So
Yeah.
just some small things like that, I think, create the gathering place.
Okay.
We have 2 lakes,
I know.
okay. Just for the record.
Alicia?
As much as I appreciate this, I think that's what we're, and the mayor hit on it, that's what we're asking. What is the action plan? What, I mean, we made this a priority because we obviously think more needs to be done. And this is great, the definition and what we've, you know, that we've done. And we all understand it's very hard and complex, but we think it's necessary. We are hearing it from the people that live here. That's why I voice it, because in fact, I got a text yesterday about it. I hear about it all the time. Placemaking, identity, places to gather in Mesa that we just don't have. And that's why and that's not to say we don't have any, and that we haven't done some good things in the past, for sure. But I think it's on this list because we want more and different. We want it to be a priority. We want an action plan. What is the plan to create more places and placemaking? That would be my question. I don't really see, you know, are we identifying some places in District 2 that we can either work with developers or private landowners, or are there public spaces? I mean, like, what is the plan? I guess is essentially my question.
Well, my answer to, we're in District 2, and I remind the council member about our Easter egg. That's right. If you went to Greenfield Park before we did those improvements years ago,
Yes.
and I will tell you, that Greenfield Park almost didn't happen. Because when we were going through the proposal of where to do parks, it wasn't really a highlighted park, but once we decided to do it, changing that playground equipment, working on the lake, and now it's a great
Again, that's
location.
looking backwards.
No,
Chris.
but my point
What
is-
is the next step?
Well, and
Because
I
that's the
guess-
point.
mean-
It had to be it's in a bond program. It takes money to do it. And I think when we come back,
But it doesn't
seeing what
have to go
happens with the
up.
election,
Yeah,
we can
true.
have that discussion about what's in that package. And even these renovated parks, that's my point is Greenfield was a park, but we renovated it and made it so that it was a warm place to invite. So I think we'll have the opportunity, because remember, a lot of the, I forget how many, Andrew's not here, how many parks we have in there. They're existing parks, but we're talking about going back into, to do improvements, and I think that'll be an opportunity for
I
us to
think
have
there were
that.
12. or
Yeah, I just
something
can't- I don't
like
remember
that.
the actual
Around a
number.
dozen, I don't know.
The community center, right?
Oh.
Identifying that community center that we're talking about.
Yes.
That'll be a great, wherever,
Well,
wherever
and
we
I
decide
guess,
that.
because since my district is full of neighborhoods, it's obviously full of green spaces too. I have lots of parks, tons of retention basins,
Right.
right? To me, those aren't really placemaking. Greenfield Park probably is more maybe borderline placemaking. I
Right.
mean, and we have great events there, but not very regularly when we do our Easter breakfasts once a year. So, I mean, I think that goes back to like the programming. So I don't know. I guess you could maybe say every park is a placemaking place then, and so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. And I never.
No, that's okay. And I think it's not just a planning tool, right, as well. We've talked about this. It's transportation, it's economic development. I mean, what is their input into this? You know, we didn't hear from, I guess it needs to be more than transactional, right? It has to be multi-department. It has to be a culture shift, essentially. And it takes more than just a planning tool to do it.
So Mayor, Council, if I can, a lot of times a great place starts with a public investment. Some of the things that Mr. Brady is talking about. It's all the investment that was made in downtown. Downtown did not just happen. It happened because the city invested in downtown, which then brings that private investment in. And that's where it's that chicken and the egg. Most of the placemaking that you'll see around the country doesn't typically start with the private investment. It typically will start with the public investment, and then the private investment wants to come and be near that public investment. So I think a lot of those pieces have been laid in place, and now when we talk about an action plan, I don't know if there's an A, B, C, D. The action plan is being implemented. So when a development comes in, the private investment, those are the types of things that we're looking at, is how do we take advantage of some of that public investment that's been made or will be made so that they then can become that kind of great place. And I go back to downtown. Downtown did not just happen. It happened because there was a lot of public investment that happened in downtown. And it is not something that is going to happen in a very short term. We do work with transportation. They are involved in that process. We do work with economic development. They are involved in that process. I think when we came in today and working with Mr. Brady, what we wanted to do was highlight some of the things that we're already doing for placemaking, because it is part of our everyday work plan.
But that's not what we asked for, really. I mean, I think we asked for something going forward. We all live here. We kind of know. We know those spots, right? We really wanted something. What does the future look like?
Yeah, but
I mean,
I
that was
think
my-
the struggle
I
is,
don't know. Does
I
anybody
would want to
have
know
a-
the council's got to tell us that.
Yeah.
We've got to make it a capital
We only
priority.
talk.
We've got
It's
to
just very
commit
vague.
resources
Yeah.
to it. It's,
Right.
I think this is a step towards coming up with a plan going forward. I think what you're seeing is there's an appetite in council, and then there's an appetite citywide to have exciting places like the pretty pictures we've just seen. So the question is, how do we achieve more of that going forward? And so we would love to have plan, that here's the questions you ask, and then apply it to District 2 and to the other places where we, when you're looking at where the city resources are, where you can go on a weekend, where you can, where a family can recreate, and we notice maybe we've got a desert in this part of the city, then we can come in and say, let's take the template that we've seen in other places and apply and look for opportunities. Now, Greenfield Park, I think, is a great example of, the opportunity there for urban fishing, for example, that could be a unique thing that, people from Eastmark might drive to Greenfield Park to participate in urban fishing.
We have a fishing pond.
Well,
Well, and I was gonna say,
Maybe
even when they do the fishing activities with PD, they don't do it at Greenfield Park. They do it out at
well, that's what I'm
Alicia's
saying.
and out at
We
Mark's
we
and out
might
at
need
Frankie's, so.
to up the ante a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
to look for opportunities. Maybe the opportunity at Greenfield Park is to be the city poster child for urban fishing. But I mean, it's going to be, you got to play the cards that you're dealt in whatever neighborhood you're in, and maybe, like I said, we're looking for an action plan to see how do we.
Yeah, and that's why I'm
create
saying, if we could come back once the bonds are approved, because you're asking us to do something, but the opportunity of resources is going to come, and that's, if you look at most of these projects, that's what stimulated them, right? It's a commitment of a capital improvement program that then we built off of that.
So, these 4 bullet points are not bond dollar-related design guidelines, general plan, place types, high-quality design. I mean, are those things that we need? Obviously, the general plan, place types is new, but do we need to change those other things? When we work with those public-private partnerships, not all public. I mean, that's something we do have control over, but what about when we're working with private developers? Do those design guidelines need to change?
Well,
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
we also need to hold the developers accountable, because we have had plans. Cadence had a plan, Eastmark had a plan. Largely, it was executed well. I mean, we've talked a lot about what the amenities in Eastmark that are great, but it's also fallen short in some areas. I mean, there's a sign here. It's a really nice sign. It says Cadence on it, and then behind that is a couple of fast food and gas stations. Well, that's not placemaking. It's fallen short. The developments that are the way it's ending is with a storage facility. That's not placemaking. That's not holding them accountable to the plan. So to your point, for a larger strategy for the community, we could put that together, but how are we going to hold people accountable to this? The community here in Eastmark has one more opportunity for a placemaking event, and I'll talk about that in the upcoming events. But the East Market, they have to over-deliver. That is the last little bit to create something special in that area, which was promised a very long time ago. So holding their feet to the fire is absolutely critical. That said, I think as an interdepartmental one, there's the pictures here. The library department has been doing a fantastic job of the placemaking. Monterey Park Express Library, I love the picture that you added there. I had a public meeting there, that little seating area that has covers, and they do events. I did an event there, then I got kicked out by the library people. There's no respect for rank here. Because they were doing a story tell, so they
Yeah, the little kiddies.
the kids win, yeah, the kids rank. But it's a wonderful opportunity, and it's such a small footprint, but a big impact. And then to see what's going on with the library being built in Eastmark, to use it again, the way that's being designed, so there's this flow inside and out. There's for a very long time, there's a farmer's market that's there, and to have that public space be designed so that it works with a private event, that comes in, and that's activating that space. So how we build our own facilities really does matter, and I think we've had some improvements there, but we also, if we're gonna do a plan, we have to figure out how we're gonna stick to that plan. Because if people are putting their hard-earned dollars into, I'm gonna pay a little bit more and I want something special, and all you get is McDonald's.
Not that there's anything wrong.
Not that there's anything wrong with McDonald's, except for their onions. then, I mean, people are going to be upset about that, and we're going to get pushback, so.
Can we just, maybe as a foundation of a plan, say these are the possible potential spots? I mean, like, is that too much to ask, that we like identify some potential placemaking areas?
We could, I mean, again, not that that doesn't work, but it by itself isn't gonna make something happen, right? And so I think it's, what I think we've done and we're trying to do that we can control is using the public space, the public resources to make these impactful and to think about how do we make it a gathering place? How do we pull people in and create spaces that can be programmed and be intentionally a placemaking?
Well, so then even that list,
What's that?
even that list, just
Right.
whatever you're looking at.
No, but
like-
that's what I'm saying. That's what we're giving you, and that's why I'm saying it's gonna take, the things we know we control are gonna be in parks, they're gonna be in right-of-ways, they're gonna be in city facilities, and that's where we'll continue to look at. If it's beyond that, we haven't necessarily how do we engage a private sector? Usually we do that, like today, we are having large conversations with, for example, the Fiesta development, what do they call themselves? Reimagined. Redefined, sorry. We're having lots of conversations with them about what that means. And so, and what's interesting is that zoning case is coming forward, but there's no development agreement because we purposely said we're not doing a development agreement until we get to those details so we can have the conversation about how we can work together to create significant placemaking, public engagement gathering spaces. So, I think, and then, but Councilmember Summers brings up a great point, is at some point, once we've designed all this and the developer has that, there's not a lot of mechanisms for the city to say, how well they're gonna execute those plans. And really the best way that happens is frankly, is when we're a partner in that actual improvement. That's why at Eastmark, you see all those, the parks, and why that's been successful, because we are very much a partner and are involved in that, making that happen. We don't have control over the retail restaurant side of things. That's just not our ability. We can't compel the private sector, the government can't compel somebody to do that. Now it's on the plan, we can hold them back from developing it or changing it. And that's why I was told council to be very careful about allowing rezoning from retail commercial to residential, right? Because we lose those opportunities. But Councilmember Summers has been working with them on redefining that, but it just sits vacant, right? I mean, it's not that it's something else happened, it just, nothing's happened. Yet the public space that we are responsible for and are partners with is happened. And it's one of probably the greatest assets of being able to live in that area. So,
But these things are happening. Placemaking is happening. My constituents are going to surrounding communities where placemaking is happening in commercial spots, in public-private. So, Chris, they have figured it out. So there's a way to do it.
Yeah,
We're saying,
there's a
please figure it
demographic
out.
that I can't control private sector investment.
Then how are they?
Because they have the incomes and the investment that is making those happen. I mean, we are trying hard to incentivize developers to put those spaces in, but at some point, we can reimburse them for everything that they pay us, and we can only get so much of a performance. I'm not sure how other cities, we can ask, but I don't think they compel them. It's a matter of a business decision for them that they can attract people to their commercial locations.
And that's what we're saying. We need to be the same here in Mesa. We need to be a place where when developers come in, they develop something our community wants to see.
We all
And
agree.
that's a win-win
I just
for
don't think
both.
it's a regulated, enforceable, I don't think it's being enforced as a regulation by those communities. We can look at it. I think it's something the developer is motivated to do to bring people to their site. I don't think it's a governmental compulsion for them to do it.
Okay.
But we can check. I don't know. I mean, we can follow up to see what governmental regulation
So there's
compulsion.
not a compulsion to come into Mesa and build great places. And if that's the case, then we need to change that. we as a city, we as a council. That's not acceptable to the
If
people
that,
who
if
live
that
there.
exists, if that's really how it's happening, that's what we can find out. But I'm not aware that that's, developers are saying that's happening.
I guess that's what that's what I'm asking. Look, I'm not asking for something, some unicorn, unique thing that nobody in the valley has done. So let's be very careful, because property owners' rights are very important. That's not what we're saying here. It is being done in the valley. It is happening, right? We're not asking for anything unique here. It's happening. We're just saying we want to see more of it in the city of Mesa. Our constituents want to see more of it. I hate to say it, but I'm tired of getting the texts that say, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? Why do I have to go to Gilbert to get it? Why do I have to go to Scottsdale? And this is what placemaking is. This is what we're talking about. I don't know the answer, but you do. That's what we're asking you. We've got to figure this out. It's high on the priority list of the people that live in my district. And I would say District 6,
Yeah.
I don't know, District 2, yeah, I don't know. District 1, sorry. So
quality of life.
Quality of life, yeah. Again, that is not to say the quality of life is awful in Mesa. There are a lot of things to be proud of. Absolutely. This is an easy place to live for a lot of reasons. The city's done a fantastic job at a lot of things. We are just pointing to one that we are saying we need more work. We need more work in this one area. So what are we gonna do? We want a plan. How are we gonna fix this? What can I tell my constituents that we're doing? And I can't give them this presentation that says, we've already done that. We're doing that. I can't say that to them.
It's not that easy.
It isn't easy.
Because
I
it is
agree.
public, it is private. I mean, it's the struggles I'm having trying to work, it's with a developer, which then is a different developer than what we started with in Eastmark to finish off. And why is it in Gilbert? They had a property owner who lives in Gilbert, loves Gilbert, farmed in Gilbert, stays in Gilbert, and he absolutely put his foot down that this is what I want to build. We need more of those people to come in. And it's like downtown. There's a photo right here of downtown Mesa. There's no one thing that happened in downtown that made downtown work. Everybody said the art center is going to be great and people are going to flood in, and people went to the art center and then they left because there was nothing to do in downtown. It was a lot of different things, and some of it not even that exciting. The fact that we replaced water lines in downtown because the old water lines couldn't support the fire sprinklers that had to go in to put a bar. It was unbelievable. So you couldn't put anything in there, and we had to make the public investment in the utilities to provide the water because that was part of what was holding up that development. But even then, you still needed the building owners to jump on board and say, we're going to help by creating something special. It's and tearing down the ugly facades of those buildings to expose the historic value that will also be a piece of placemaking and bringing them in. We talked about that 1.5 years ago. I haven't seen that thing come down yet. I have a saw. I will do it myself because it's just it's not an easy. This is not easy. So it's a process. It's going to take a long time, but for us as a city to have a standard is important to demonstrate through our projects like the libraries that I brought up as an example that are in here also, to do that and say, see, we invest in our own infrastructure to make it look nice. This is what we expect of everybody else. To be that example is another component of this. We're going to be talking about this long after the mayor is in his wheelchair. It's an iterative, long process that we just have to continue to push on every single day. So it starts with a presentation. Actually, it started a long time before this, and it will continue on. And I think to have a grand strategy, to continue to demonstrate, what good design looks like this is all important. Which, by the way, I just wanted to bring up Mesa Drive, the little skate park down there that I pass all the time when I drive all the way from Eastmark. That thing was a brownfield site.
I think you're right.
It was a gas station, it was contaminated property, and it took a long time to get that property acquired and built, and now look at it. It's really, really special. So these opportunities come along, but it's just a slow roll.
It is, absolutely. I agree with everything you said, Scott, but I guess what's a little disheartening is when the presentation doesn't include all the components, right? We don't have anything from economic development, we don't have anything from transportation, and it's a look back. That is a little disappointing. That is, to me, it doesn't really show a commitment to this initiative, in my opinion. I might be the lone wolf up here, but I can't point to anything that we're gonna do differently, or, you know, that it's what are our KPIs? I mean, we just got KPIs for the tree initiative. What are our KPIs for this? Maybe we do a SFOC assessment. What, you know,
I did have, when I was going through the presentation yesterday, I got to the end and I thought, well, now what? Like,
Yeah.
and so, ... Like, I did feel like that feeling of, what does this mean? I don't really know what this means. So, but again, it's very complicated, and
yeah,
so,
for sure.
I don't know. I had the same feeling, Alicia.
I think it is a good observation that there's more, you know, the economic development does need to be included in this, because my limited experience is that I think there's an appetite for more higher end retail in Mesa, and I think when we approach those folks, they say, here's your, you know, what we look at is income levels, so here's the piece of property you're looking at, where we draw a mile circle around it, and we look at the income levels of the neighborhoods that surround that property, and, you know, you're not gonna get a high-end retail investment if you don't have the surrounding income levels to support it. And so that's part of our frustration in Mesa. We have pockets of affluence that would justify investment in high-end retail, and they're surrounded by mobile home parks. And so, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I mean, that's the reality of who we are, and pushback that we get when we aspire to have higher end retail in our community to some extent. So I think we need to include, you know, we're back to this will be, I'm excited to watch the next council wrestle with this. But clearly there's an appetite on council, clearly there's an appetite in the community to aspire to improve the quality of retail and the amenities, public and private. But I think it's going to be more of an all hands on deck type thing where we have Jay and other people, you know, sitting here, and they're part of.
So Mayor, I think we're doing that, and maybe we just need to
we are.
pop the lid a little more,
Yeah.
because you just approved 2 weeks ago a development agreement for Gallery Park to bring in a new hotel and a new restaurant, reimbursing public improvements to help make that happen. We are negotiating major developments at Fiesta, at, you know, in district, in Councilor Heddy's office, we have over almost 400 acres of development that are being discussed right now that are going to include a lot of these discussions. And so it's happening. We have developments in your district, Councilman Goforth, that we're having those discussions about bringing quality retail. You know about it. We've talked about it. We are talking about how do we incentive and be a part of that.
But these are one-off. That's very transactional. That's what I'm saying. Like, what is?
I don't know how else the city participates in a placemaking initiative with a developer without it being transactional, right? That's what's going to make it happen. There's going to have to be a give and take and a motivation for us to work with a developer and say, if you will bring us a quality restaurant retail experience that we really want in this community, they're saying, well, I need help. You're going to have to help me with my development offset costs. And so we talk about what's the appropriate level of reimbursement for public infrastructure, of sales tax incentives. So we're having that conversation, I mean, actively right now in multiple projects, probably covering more acreage than I've seen in a long time, and some significant opportunities. But they don't happen overnight. I mean, the Fiesta, we were working on that one for over a year now before we got to planning and zoning. So you don't see it, but we're working on it. And we've got another one all over the city where we're working on, legacy resorts, or what we're calling it, Ellsworth and Williams, a massive project, right, with significantly high-scale development. So, yeah, we're working on it. We're not sitting here waiting for something to happen. And yeah, they're going to be transactional. I don't know how you define placemaking with private sector that doesn't require transactional relationship. I don't know what that looks like.
Well, I guess with all due respect, the one in my district, Chris, I was a barrier to that becoming the traditional non-place that we sometimes have in Mesa. What I'm saying is it needs to be a cultural shift within the city, that it can't just be the one council member that just demands, this is not okay, this is not quality enough, this is not cutting the mark.
I don't
right?
just want council member.
Not just saying, no, I'm not, no. I mean, in our
I'm
district.
making no friends.
No, I don't mean as far as the whole city. I mean within the district, right? That needs to be driven by the city, driven by
Here's the
city to
sensitivity.
say-
We just have a retail strategy study we're going to bring to council. And one of the things it talks about is it criticizes, and I hear it out in the
Yeah.
community, that we're getting ripped by this staff. It's the same staff that you're telling to do more. They're being told you're in the way. You are the barrier. You're the reason why your demands on private sector investment are driving people to other communities. We're trying to be careful, to be very reasonable in that approach. So it's not like we're not doing anything, but we're also sensitive to this fact that sometimes asking that question of a developer is perceived as being a negative, and you don't want to do work
Yeah,
for us.
that does happen, you're right.
Oh,
But
it
in
happens all the time.
Oh, for sure, but in my experience so far, those are from the landowners that are used to the business as usual. I'm gonna put in a drive-through and a car wash, and they don't tend to like it. So I mean, I think the quality developers from probably outside the city of Mesa a lot of times get it and are doing it. Fiesta's a good example, right? Gallery Park. Maybe the one I'm working on, we'll see. So anyway, what I'm saying is, the pushback, you're right, we do get pushback, but is this the right thing to do? Is this what our constituents want us to do?
Well, that's why we look to you, because if
That's
we're
right.
pushing hard and the developer
And you don't see us saying,
throws a
hey,
fit,
staff, lighten up.
it can't be, I know, but it's not, listen, in this environment, it is not just the city staff out on an island. If we are doing it by ourselves, we need the political support from the council members from those districts saying, yes, this is what I want, because if without that, what happens is they will go around staff.
Absolutely.
So
We're on the same
we do
page.
this together.
And vice versa.
We do this together.
So when the council member says, that's not acceptable, we've got to be on the same page with that.
Right. Well, and I think we have, and yet at the same time, we have to have a balance, right?
For sure.
Of what is reasonable to ask for, because there are limits of what our market and our demand from our incomes in Mesa truly will support. And we have to find how can we raise the quality and manage and push them as far as we can and still get quality development. So, and that's what we're working on.
This discussion will continue, obviously, but I think this is a very, I'm glad we had this dialogue. I think it will continue. And to Mr. Brady's point, there are some things, to Mr. Brady's point, there's some things on the cusp of happening in D6 and other places, Gateway East, Legacy, Gallery Park, where a year from now, people are going to be pointing to some pictures like this in other parts of the community saying, wow, that's an impressive place that was made there. So I think there's some things about to break that I think will respond to some of the frustration we're seeing from people in parts of the community that feel like they're being left behind. But that's not to say that I'm excited for this to be a priority of the next council and to see how to work with staff and the development community to make improvements in this area. But thank you. That was a good and a robust discussion, and I'm sure there'll be many more. Thank you very much for your work on that. Next item on our agenda is, excuse me, current events and conferences attended. Council members, anything you'd like to share with us? Mr. Summers.
Well, bouncing right off the last presentation, if you want to be involved in placemaking, now's the time. We're going to have two community meetings on the same day for East Market. East Market is the hopefully upscale development that we want to see in the East Market community. It's Ray Road and Ellsworth, roughly. So they're going to, Brookfield's holding two meetings. One's at 10 a.m., the other's at 4 p.m. It's on Tuesday, October 29th. And if the city clerk would post it as a public meeting, I would love for all of council to show up and have a conversation with the community.
Julie?
Yeah, this week I got to do my very favorite thing, which is talk to teenagers. I got to do it 3 different times. So I spoke to middle school students from Heartwood Montessori about local government. Wednesday, I spoke to about 40 ASU prep high school students about homelessness. And last night I was able to participate in a town hall with Mayor Giles and our representative Lorena Austin for Mayor's Youth Committee. And all 3 of those events, I was absolutely so impressed with the amazing questions that these teenagers are asking, and very thoughtful. I don't think I was that thoughtful about these issues when I was a teenager, so it was so fun. I love it. I think we just need more teenage voices and input in our city and what we're doing moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
So thank you. District 1 hosted our annual barbecue at the Mesa Historical Museum. We had about 100 people come, and it was a great time for barbecue. Bruce Kane and his wife, Kane's Barbecue, is very great about that. And then we highlighted the renovation of the auditorium there at the Mesa Historical Museum. So they appreciate the city's involvement there. It's coming along very nicely. And then I was able to join the mayor at a ribbon cutting, and I'll let him announce that. Thank you.
Which one are we talking about? What? Google. Google? Oh, yeah, that was great. Yeah, well, before I forget, obviously I have memory
Casey, he
issues.
needs help.
Google Fiber is a G Fiber. I know. Thank you to the long-suffering residents of Mesa who are dealing with this goal that we adopted. I think it's a wonderful goal of getting fiber optic cable to every home and every business in our city. And that comes, with some growing pains. And so there's been a lot of trenching, micro trenching, and other trenching going on in our community. But it's all going to be worth it. Having that infrastructure to our homes and our businesses is really going to distinguish our city. And so to the event Mr. Freeman's referring to is Google Fiber, which is really, we're very fortunate that they are invested in our community in such a big way, along with AT&T and others. Opened a great facility out at the Riverview area. And I'm really looking forward to getting to fiber optic to my neighborhood. It hasn't arrived yet, but it is going to be. We live now in the world of the Internet of Things, where we pull out when we want to. We can be on a trip and still open our front door and turn on our landscaping lights from the couch, and our toasters talk to our refrigerators, and I mean that's the world that we live in. And for that to function, we need fiber in our homes. So,
It's interesting,
anyway.
the city manager has fiber already.
He does, yes. And, a lot of
I don't. You don't.
It's just because I live in the same neighborhood as Ian, that's why.
Yeah. So we're all anxiously awaiting, the arrival of fiber to our neighborhoods. But that was a great event, and I look forward to many more like that in the city.
Can I add one more?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Mayor. We held our final public safety meeting, council committee meeting this past week, and I just want to highlight a few things that's been done in our city. I think it's just phenomenal. We built a fire station, announced 221 at East Mart. We're building the combined police fire facility, 222 at Power and McClellan. We got 223 on the books at 32nd Street in McDowell. 224 is being considered as well. That's at 80th Street in Elliott. And then we're doing the remodel of Station 205 along with the police headquarters build out. and then potentially our dispatch center combined if the bond passes. So these are fabulous things we're doing for our public safety to reduce our response times in our communities, and I find that just phenomenal. And also it involves our safety for our public safety personnel and provides a great asset for them to get out and deliver their services. So I just want to highlight that what we've been doing as a council for this past year with the help of management as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Vice Mayor Heredia, I haven't reached out to you during this meeting. I apologize. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm good. I appreciate the conversation here, but I think other than I couldn't make it to the Google Fiber, but glad to have Google Fiber in West Mesa open an office here at Riverview. So
Yeah, great. Thank you. A couple of events that haven't already been talked about. I was excited to be invited to participate along with Mayor Gallego from Phoenix, Mayor Wood from Tempe. The president of the National League of Cities, Mayor Ginther from Columbus, Ohio, was here highlighting a national agenda for mayors on focusing on housing. And so we kicked off that discussion in Phoenix at a affordable housing project a couple of days ago. And it'll be, that is a very compelling issue in Mesa, in the Phoenix area, and nationwide. So appreciated being a part of that conversation. Mayor Woods and I also have been involved in some events on a Disagree Better campaign that we've been co-chairing to address just the difficult environment that we're seeing when it comes to political discourse during the campaigns, but just even before that. So we'll continue to have presentations at churches and other groups here over the next few weeks and probably after the election as well. And then thank you to Councilmember Spilsbury, but also Representative Austin for participating in the Mayor's Youth Committee event that Julie talked about it a minute ago. The Mayor's Youth Committee is a great group. We've got 40 really sharp young people that are very energized and appreciate their engagement. But it's very, if you're pessimistic about the future of our country, you should come to one of these and meet these young people. They're amazing people, as Julie indicated. Council, anything else you'd like to share with us? If not, Mr. Brady, what does our future meeting schedule look like?
Thank you, Mayor. We'll see you a week from today on Thursday, October 31st for our 7:30 a.m. 7:30 a.m. study session. Thank you.
No costumes. All right. This meeting actually is not over. Item 4 on our agenda is to convene an executive session regarding the Lopez lawsuit. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Thank you, Mr. Summers. And a second from Ms. Spilsbury. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously, and we will now go into an executive session.